recorded in Cambridge, November the 22nd, 2016, with Paralympian Roy Turnham, Fiona Musgrove, Alex Ween.
I'm joined here by our head coach, Alex Ween, who is a level 2 LTA coach, and also Roy Turnham here, who will be doing his level 1 with us next year. Hi, welcome. Right. Today we were talking when we had our Chinese about the coaching and different aspects around coaching. First of all, Roy, if I may start with you, what do you feel how coaching could be improved for tennis particularly?
I can only talk as a B1 player, as that's the category that I play within, so under blindfold or totally blind, however you want to describe it. And my feeling is that as somebody who's managed to, I guess, get some success in the game, I've managed to win a few tournaments and that sort of thing, it's kind of frustrated me that, having spoken to a lot of other B1 players, that they don't feel that they have maybe been getting the same quality access to the game as someone like myself has, and that can only come down to the game awareness of the coaches, who are delivering to them. And I think one of the issues is that very highly skilled coaches, I must say, but sighted coaches who haven't really coached blind players before and have very little experience of blind sport and how blind people track a ball through sound, they are struggling to really adapt their coaching to meet the needs of the players that they are coaching. So if I give an example, in that the way somebody who is a B1 tracks the ball is they're allowed 3 bounces to be before returning the ball, so they're allowed to return the ball off up to 3 bounces. Now they can only get an awareness of where that ball is after it bounces, because that's the only time that it generates a sound. It doesn't really generate a sound in the air. Whereas as a sighted player, you see the ball straight off the racket, really. So you get to set yourself a lot earlier, which hence why you're allowed the extra bounces as a B1 player. Now I've been told of examples of players, B1 players, where the coach has tried to coach them to return the ball off 1 bounce. Now what you're trying to coach is a very difficult skill in itself for a B1 player if you can only tell where the ball is once it bounces that first time. Surely you want to be taking it a good few steps back before you start doing things like that. This is coming from other players' frustration. This isn't, this isn't just me making something up. This is, I speak to a lot of different players, and it tends to be a general frustration with other players.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's really what we're talking about is going back to basics. Alex, what's your point of view about going back to basics with VI tennis in a way?
I agree very much with what Roy said. I think particularly with the B1 players really struggle a lot because they are completely dependent on sound, whereas some of the partially sighted players have, they can see the ball coming, so they can see a visual demonstration of the coach doing a forehand and the uniturn, the backswing. A B1 player doesn't see that, but I think also as well, just the way, because the B1 players are completely dependent on sound, the way that the ball is struck, the swing, has to be adapted, because if you swing very much low to high, like Nadal for example, the ball can just go straight underneath it. So B1 players need a very low, very flat part of the racket which extends forward.
So it's like it's a very short backlift, but a longer follow through to be able to control the shot afterwards.
And but the follow through is not across the chest like they have in mainstream tennis. In mainstream tennis, you have the backswing and the racket goes backwards, and you semi-open, and as you come through, you bend at the elbow. That's not good. And I've actually seen a lot of B1 players who have been taught to do that, to bend at the elbow. And it's so sad because they had everything right. They did the unit turn, they got the racket back, but because they came across their chest, the ball was in front of them, and if they had extended forwards, they would have made contact. So there is distinct differences in B1 tennis, if you will, and mainstream tennis, and I think it's worth us. I don't know. I think it's definitely worth getting more information about, particularly what is best practice really for coaching B1 players, because I think we, as a LTA level 2 coach myself, I had to know everything about tennis and mainstream tennis, and to meet that quality assurance markers that I could get players warmed up and understand what the progressions were and what was a competitive play and these types of things, that aren't really the quality assurance markers really to make sure that coaches can really coach B1 tennis. So
well,
for example,
I mentioned to you earlier, didn't I, about a session that was going on where it was a level 3 coach, a sighted coach, delivering a session who'd never coached blind tennis before, and somebody who'd paid to participate in the session ended up providing that consultancy role to that coach, so that coach could end up being able to coach effectively. If they hadn't have sort of taken the advice of somebody who was just there to play, then that coach would be out of their depth. And but it's important that people respect. I respect anybody who comes to coach in the game, and it's important that the coaches also respect that they can learn things from those of us who've played sport as blind participants for many years. We have things that we're very willing, we want to share with the coaches, and we want to be respected as potentially as being coaches ourselves, because we do have good experiences of blind tennis and other blind sports.
Sorry, Fiona. And I think one other thing as well that I would say as well, that if you were to ask some coaches, could you put a blindfold on and hit this ball? I don't think a lot of them could, to be honest with you, if I'm being brutally honest, because
that's a good point.
They're very good at tennis. You could be level 5 in mainstream tennis and never even met someone who's blind or visually impaired. And so they're extremely, and also as well, they're not just good at tennis, they're really good coaches at tennis, and they're so conditioned to have their swing in a certain way. But if you were to put a blindfold on and then say, okay, do the exact, now you hit the ball, it wouldn't work, because the technique is different, the strategy for playing the game is different.
Well,
so I really
we talk
think
about technique. I mean, I think we spoke about it a lot. One of the things I picked up from sort of being around other B1 players was that little scoop shot that some players play. Now that is no way a conventional tennis shot, because it's players play it because they can react very late and get enough purchase under the ball just to get it back over the net. But it's a shot that's, you don't take very much backlift at all. So it's when you don't pick up the ball till it's almost right in front of you, and it's a very effective way of still being able to return the ball.
Right. I mean, I had a coach tell me off for doing it. It's a bit like I'm digging in the garden with it.
But it was an effective.
It's an effective way.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's like in cricket a good few years ago. It used to be if you swept the ball, if you played a sweep shot, you were sent out of the net because that's not a conventional cricket shot. Or if you toe poke a ball in football, that's not a proper shot. It's like, well, actually, what determines what is a proper shot? It's what is effective, and that's what we've got to look at: is what works well, what is effective for B1 players.
Yeah, I mean, I think, guys, today has shown us we can actually make a few more videos on this subject. But I think today, thank you very much for joining us, Roy, and Alex, and Tom for being our cameraman. And we will post some more videos very soon on the website. And again, for joining us, thank you.
And can I just say one more thing? I think so much of the growth of the game, visually impaired tennis, has been from blind and partially sighted people doing their coaching qualifications and helping others into the game. I think it's so important that we ensure that people, players, if they want to do the level 1, they should be encouraged to do the level 1 and to progress, not just personally but professionally, because I know I think there's that relatability, and that if you have someone who can demonstrate visually impaired tennis as a visually impaired, but there's that relatability. I mean, I know when I started tennis, I'm very thankful to my initial coaches who were Odette and Alan and Amanda from Metro, and you know, I never looked back since. So
Yeah,
I say
great,
thank
that's
you.
good. Yeah, and
Fiona's going to tell me to be quiet now.
yes,
But yeah,
no,
but it's really important.
It is very important. I think it's very important for you to have done your level 2, and we hope that there will be a lot more support in 2017 for you to go and do your level 3, and for other people in the UK who want to do the level 3 as VI. So yeah, thanks again, guys, and we'll have another video follow soon. Thank you.
I think that was pretty good.
To contact Vision for Growth, please use our website www.visionforgrowth.org.uk or email me on fiona@visionforgrowth.org.uk. See you soon. Bye.